Hey everyone, Tony D and Little Joan here with a hot take. Today's hot take is DC Comics digital distribution. Yes. Will digital destroy the comic book industry? No. In fact, it's likely to save it. It's just not going to save the comic book industry as you know it currently. The problem right now, of course, is DC is still selling those digital downloads at $2.99, $3.99 a download, which is too much money because they're trying to not compete with the comic book stores, which aren't even open now. So, and DC is doing a good thing by making all the comic books between now and June, when things reopen, returnable. So, when comic book store owners get their orders and some of their fans have moved on to digital or just canceled things altogether, they'll be able to at least not take a huge hit. They will take a hit, though, because the economy is going to take a downturn, at least in the short run. And people, first thing they cut are things like comic books. They're considered a luxury item for most people, not a necessity. I mean, you don't have to eat a comic book every day, right? You do have to eat food every day. So how is this going to impact the industry? Well, I think the comic book industry has been on its last legs for a while. I mean, we've done several live streams about it and several videos about it. I mean, there's just no getting around. And you may have seen in our live stream when we talked about DC's latest offering, Gotham High, the kind of direction that creatively these guys are going. They're going down the tubes, in my view. They're headed the same way television is heading right now. They have such a high overhead. That's part of the problem. One of the upshots of being a division in a major company is, well, your favorite comic books turn into TV shows and they turn into movies, and for some fans that's a great thing and that's what they always wanted. But as I said many years ago, be careful what you wish for, fanboy, because that overhead translates into, we can't do a project unless there's a massive profit. We can't do a small comic. We can't do a small TV show. We can't do a small anything, because just to turn on the lights costs them thousands of dollars, because it's not just one employee. When they fire up the engines at DC Comics, they have they're top heavy with administration, like a lot of big places are. So they have editors, but they also have marketing people, and they got HR, and yes, they're going to outsource all the jobs they can, but guess what? That turns out to be all their talent, 90% of it. They don't have any in-house talent anymore. And what that means is everybody who's sort of an outsourced talent, in my view, you only have so much of a connection to your job, because first off, you can be fired at any time, as the people who are working right now or were working have discovered, #pencils down. So there is an advantage to that, in that, yes, you can work from your home and you could take other work and you could just do as much work as you can from home. And in some ways that's more efficient. The downside is there's no job security usually in working those kinds of jobs, especially if you're a freelance. The moment they turn off the spigot, you're scrambling. Crap. I thought I'd be working the next 8 months. Now I'm done. It happened to me. I was sitting pretty at, I guess it was last year, about midway through the year. I had 6 jobs, and 2 or 3 of them would carry me through. And those all ended. All of them ended. Not just the ones that would carry me through in terms of my expenses, but all of them ended all at once within probably a few weeks of each other. And it sucked. It sucked, and I don't know why it happened. It wasn't It wasn't this. It wasn't the current crisis, of course. That was last year. Just was bad timing on all of them. They all just turned around and, the big one was like, "Oh, sorry, we're going to shut this down and rethink things." The next big one was just like, we're done for a while. We'll get back to you, and on and on. And that's the downside of being a freelancer. You got to just keep scrambling. You got to keep looking for the next job. And right now, a lot of people in that gig economy are in real trouble. I mean, right now I'm looking for work, and it's pretty desolate out there. No one's hiring because nobody can leave their house. So everybody's just in a holding pattern until May or June, when things might pick up, and then you're going to be looking at massive, oh, I need a writer, and then you're fighting over a job with 500 people, and that ain't good odds. Let me tell you, I've done that before, and I've actually won. But just recently, me and CB applied for a job. Now, I wasn't as qualified nearly as CB. CB was uber qualified for this job. And when I say uber, I mean I can't believe they didn't hire her. But it got down to I think the top 8 or 9 finalists, and they were going to hire 3, and they told her she was number 4. I mean, that was kind of heartbreaking. But that was right before the current crisis, so in a way it would have kind of sucked, because I think who knows if they've cut back. Everybody's going to be cutting back. All the big companies are going to be cutting back. The ad revenue is going down the toilet, right down the toilet for a while at least. So it may be a few years before things come back. And quite frankly, Google and some of the Southern California morons have keep gaming the algorithm in favor of these major corporations. They're killing the internet. The internet is going underground into places like BitChute and Gab, and slowly but surely, you're losing your audience. It's going to take a few years, but eventually you're going to be begging people to come back to YouTube, and you're going to be offering them all kinds of crazy movies and TV show deals. But guess what? Everybody will have those movies and TV shows. And all the original programming in the world is going to help you with celebrities, because celebrities are rapidly becoming not a thing anymore. Right, little doggy? Little doggy should be a celebrity, I think. Little doggy should be on a t-shirt, I think. What do you think, doggy? T-shirt? T-shirt? Eh. She just wants a snack. So, sorry, I digressed. We're talking about DC Comics digital distribution. The whole model really should be $1 a comic. $1 a comic for digital. And I know what you're saying. You're saying, oh my God, why would anybody go to a comic book store with those kinds of numbers? Yeah, I mean, that's part of the deal. But here's my theory. If you go to $1 a comic, you'll increase the amount of digital by a large margin. Now, at first, this margin would be just mainly comic book fans. But if you advertised outside of the world of comics, if you pushed storylines that would have a broad appeal to normal people, not just people who are super woke or super inside the world of comics, you might actually gain an audience. And the way I see it, it's similar to what happened when people started downloading music, when people started doing cassettes. I mean, you don't understand what the record industry, they lost their minds when cassettes became a thing. Oh my God, people can record their own music? That's no good. We have to put a stop to that, said the record company. Well, as it turns out, people who record their own music or download their own music, they really love music. So they also buy music too. And the idea is, instead of having, say, 500,000 fans who all pay, you instead have 5 million fans. Some pay and some don't, but ultimately the ones that pay out of that 5 million is bigger than 500,000. So you get, say, 1 million people paying. That's the kind of model I see for comics. Get 10 million people downloading comics, and then you're going to increase your paper sales by a wide margin, because a certain percentage of those digital people will then go to comic book stores to buy comics because they have loved the medium so much. Unfortunately, DC and Marvel, in my opinion, have S the bed in terms of the creative angles. Because they're based in LA now, because they're taking pitches from screenwriters and TV people, the upside is those guys actually usually pitch endings to the thing. The downside is the concepts are extremely trend chasing. So this Gotham High that we talked about, which is sort of like Gotham or Batman meets Twilight, it's so woke, so derivative, so in your face. Yeah, this is what the kids want. It's not even Batman, in my opinion. You know, first off, it's Bruce Wayne in high school, so he's not Batman. All right, so there's no Batman. Another non-Batman show. People like Batman, DC Comics. Anyhow, you know my feeling about non-Batman entertainment. There's more non-Batman entertainment than there is actual Batman entertainment at this point. So Gotham High is Bruce Wayne as Bruce Wayne as a kid, and guess what? He goes to school with Catwoman and the Joker, who are represented by Bruce Wayne's from Hong Kong in this incarnation. Catwoman is a Latina, and Jack Napier, I don't know, I guess he's a white guy because he's a bad guy, and that's okay with the woke crowd who are currently running comics. So there's your woke progressive Batman story. It's sickening. It's sickening to the fans who are mostly men, who are mostly older. 50% of the comic book audience is above the age of 18. They're not interested in this sort of nonsense. And look, you could have introduced super woke characters and done Gotham High with completely different characters. It wouldn't have sold, but at least you would have had different characters. You know, there's an argument on, I forget where, about the downside of pitching new characters. I like that they at least pitch new characters. The problem is the kind of that you see this incestuous relationship in media now. The people who get to pitch stuff, the people who get to do these things, now that it's all part of this giant corporate elite, are people who are rich, people who are people who hold the right opinions. It has nothing to do with merit, in my view. They're very little to do with merit. So you have these people who are just, well, they just know the right people, or they just live the right life. Daniel Kibblesmith, I mean, a lot of people are just ragging on him, and it's hilarious. But, you know, he's just one of a long line of people who fits the criteria. He's not the first guy, and he certainly won't be the last to be brought in. You know, a guy who's already a millionaire, who probably just wanted to write comics, you know. And to some extent, I can't blame him. I mean, if I was rich and I could just do what I wanted like that, sure, I'd write comics too. I mean, that's what I want to do. But because I have to work and struggle, I have a different skill set, I believe, than people like that. People who are rich, I think their skill set tends to wither on the vine a bit. And when you get somebody who's hungry, who really wants to work, you know, my friend who sadly passed away, Tommy Castillo, you know, he was a great artist. And one of the reasons he was great is he was a fighter. You know, he was a struggler. He was out in the trenches really doing artwork, trying to make money any way he can. And he really developed skills. You know, he had a lot of natural talent, of course, but he really developed some skills. And I think that reflected in his work. You know, looking at Daniel Kibblesmith's work on that trailer, and well, not that he made the trailer, but that he's explaining his characters, I could just see, like, man, these are just horrible pitches. And again, I don't blame it all on him. I blame mostly editorial, because it sounds like editorial shoved most of this down his throat and said, write this. I think the only character he has in that lineup of new Warriors is B Negative, because of his reaction in the video when he talks about B Negative. Oh, he loves it. He thinks it's the greatest character ever. I think that's his character. I think the rest were pushed upon him by editorial, and and now they're just trashing it. But that's what you get when you do some sort of corporate. It's mediocrity by committee. Instead of hiring people with vision, instead of hiring people, you need to hire people who are trouble, like me. Like, I'm a pain in the ass. I'd be calling the office, complaining about things, demanding things, and you'd have to deal with me. And that's not the kind of people they hire. They don't like those people. But that's talent to a lot of extent. Everybody who's truly talented there has to be some amount of pushback, and you have to tolerate it. Now, you shouldn't tolerate too much. Obviously, there are people who indulge, and you shouldn't tolerate too much. There should be boundaries. Like, you shouldn't be going on Twitter yelling at the fans and calling them nasty names and telling them to eat a bag of D's. But there's a balance in there. And until DC refines that balance, I don't think they ever will. It doesn't matter if they're digital or paper or print. Things are going to continue to go right down the crapper. So, adios, comics. And hey, let's talk about comics in the next video as I fix the DC Comics universe.